Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you.
Have you started working already?
Not really, because I haven't been approved and sworn in by the president, but the minister has been allowing me to sit in some of the meetings.
I'll come to you shortly. What do you make of
I think it's going according to the plan that would culminate in the budget, providing details. Now, if I may go back to the SONA, you saw the president taking charge, I wouldn't even say virtually, taking charge of the agenda going forward, after he had told, everybody in Parliament, based on his constitutional responsibility about the state of the economy, but moving ahead and saying we are going to fix it, as he is fond of saying. And that takes you back to 2013, thereabouts, when we had 2014, the Century Forum, as he mentioned, today. Now you are beginning to see from that and his presentation today, which again, when the president speaks, he speaks about high-level themes, his responsibility to Ghanaians and manifesto promises that must be fulfilled. The minister today took it a notch, lower into details to show, one, what is it that the president has been talking about. These are the facts based on data, based on statistics. But then he went on to compare us in many ways, sometimes to our peers, to say that I am not saying something which advanced countries, have done and for which they have made progress, but I'm saying even the countries in our, category, some of who we were ahead of, today are surpassing us. And these are the facts. Then he goes on to outline what is it that His Excellency Mahama's, economic policy will be, what are some of the solutions. So he's giving a flavor, again, of what will come ultimately as more details in the budget. He spoke about fiscal mostly because even if you took the monetary, as His Excellency said, much of the problem has been fiscal. But he went to the real sector. He picked on the sectors that have challenges, but the sectors that also have promise, and how we can get out of this. So I would say all of this will culminate in the budget, where there will be more facts, more, and at that point, and beginning from tomorrow actually, you will begin to see the sector ministers, particularly in the difficult areas of the economy, joining this forum, and beginning to give a bit more detail about sector policies. You will have the budget, and hopefully we will set the tone, for turning the economy around and back to growth.
I'll come back to you on some specifics, but let me come to the soon to be sworn-in deputy minister. How pleased are you with what you say, and particularly talk to us a bit about the approach to the boss, deciding to do a PowerPoint in front of everybody for the whole region on the growth of the nation. Why was that necessary?
It was necessary because the minister wanted to give a picturesque impression of some of the things that words cannot adequately explain. And so he decided to blend it with graphs and with tables so that people will appreciate the situation as it is. I realized that he was a bit careful not to use this platform to present the budget. And so you see that he didn't want to go into detail. So you see more. In fact, you hear a lot more on the 11th when he comes to present the budget. But a few of the things that he mentioned that I think we need to ponder about. He gave one of the graphs indicated that the rate at which we are going, it will take us up to 2050 to get to an upper middle income status. But if we want to be innovative with moderate approach, we will be able to achieve that level in the year 2042. And we want to be ambitious, we can even do that earlier, sooner than that, around the year 2038. So the choice is ours. And that is why some of these discussions are important, so that all of us will agree on what we as a nation will want to do. That is why for me it is a worry that our friends on the other side decided to stay out of this important forum. When my boss's boss was finance minister, there was a similar forum in my constituency that they boycotted.
Senchi.
Yes, in Senchi that they boycotted. And unfortunately, they haven't been here too. President Mahama was clear that he knows the direction he wants to send this country, but he needs to build consensus. If you look critically, since 92, we have changed government from NDC to MPP, back to NDC, and to, so it is possible that in the next maybe 16, 20, or whatever years, MPP will have another opportunity to lead this country. What would we have gained if we gather only for them to come and scatter? What will be the gain if we reset this economy? President Mahama knows that he has only 4 years. And so he's doing everything to reset this economy within that 4 years. But there has to be sustained effort to make sure that that effort yields the needed results. That is why it is important for that consensus that he needs for everybody to be on the same page. Dr. K.Y. Amoako made a profound statement that economic development takes decades. And so we cannot achieve everything within the 4 years that mandate that President Mahama has. What we do beyond that will be what will give us the needed impact.
All right. Jumping off from there, so the KY Manko actually said that there were 3 key requirements for development: strong leadership, policy consistency, and then citizens' engagement with their government as a shared responsibility. You've spoken about the leadership part when you said it's important. How do you think you can manage that up and down so that even though the MP is not here, there will be a way in which you can carry through some of the structural reforms that this government is trying to do?
Well, for policy consistency, I have always said that often when we accentuate certain positives, sometimes you have, you have transitions, and we dwell often a lot on on where we are, right? And we do not point into most of the time failures, right? I would hope that we would, for once, also begin to accentuate the positive. Let me give 2 examples. I think when we defaulted, the default was after HIPIC. And the difference now is that it came home to bite. The haircut which foreigners had for us and a HIPIC came home to bite, right? Now, suddenly, you saw that once the current minister, who was a deputy, moved on 2 things: treasury single account at the end of the year, consolidate government resources, which is a policy, we're implementing, because government resources are often scattered all over the place, right? We became liquid. Resources that were sitting, had been allocated but were not being used, helped us, to begin to tackle the borrowing, right? This is a replay from the trade single accounts of going to 2016, when at the time it also resulted in being able to finance treasury bills and even bonds, repay part of their resources, and then you saw treasury bill rates coming down from about 23-24% to about 16% after we did a refinancing. This is one example of policy continuity. It has taken 10-year gap. The second one, I believe, we won't surprise you, the sinking fund, which was built up rapidly with the monies that were going in, and out of which we were able, to pay off, some. It should tell us that, one, much of what President Mahama is talking about, much of what the minister is talking about, are not necessarily new initiatives, but they are going to be initiatives, right? And if you remember during the campaign, President Mahama said, I'm going to tackle pipeline projects. You saw today in the data why we must tackle pipeline. Significant contracts that have been awarded. He gave the numbers. Growth sector, energy sector, and all that. Why continue to award new contracts when you have, the pipeline? The pipeline was part of the homegrown policy in what we call the contract database, which didn't used to exist, which was created and set aside. So I'm saying that in as much as, we are looking at promises, we are looking at things that will be done, there is also an element of things that were done already. And that is important in another respect. It took us 1 year from 2013 to 2014 with assistance of African Development Bank to do the homegrown policy. And it took us to 2015 before we could negotiate the IMF program. Right now we are in an IMF program. You see the speed with which we are going because the elements of the homegrown policy have been proved to be relevant. And so the very first budget, which didn't happen in 2013, is going to come with solutions. Yes.
But let me come to you. So we know.
Thank you. But before I come to that, I think the earlier question you asked my boss's boss, he mentioned the policy consistency. And his example was from when he was finance minister, and that is being followed through by his deputy, who has now become the finance minister. He spoke about the sinking fund. And today in Ghana, when you mention sinking fund, another name for it is Terkper. I mean, people credit him for that.
Correct.
I think what you wanted to find out was from one party to the other.
Exactly.
How do we ensure that there is that consistency? That is why I feel that we should not relent in bringing the MPP on board what we have started today. Even though they are not here today, we must find ways to get them to buy into whatever consensus we will build here. Because I believe that it is important for them to be on board so that whether in the next 16, 20 years or whenever they get the opportunity to manage the economy of this country again, they don't deviate from the course that will give us the fastest growth that we are all looking for. Now, President Mahama is clear. So far, you have seen that he is determined to fulfill all the campaign promises that he made to Ghanaians. And that includes the taxes that he promised that we will remove. And by the 11th of this month, when the finance minister comes to present the budget, you will realize that e-levy will be gone, betting tax will be removed, and all that.
Will COVID go?
COVID will go. I mean, they are the promises we made, and so we will deliver on the promises. We have identified that there is a huge tax gap. The minister mentioned that there is a huge VAT gap. In fact, the medium-term revenue strategy that was prepared, document that was prepared, estimated that we have a 61% VAT gap. That means we are collecting only 39% of our potential VAT revenue. And so we are going to ensure that we bridge that gap, and that will make up for the losses that we'll make with the removal of the taxes.
You mentioned that there could be a way in which you incentivize people to show that they have paid a certain tax so that you can do better tax enforcement. So it seems to me your policy is not so much new tax policy, but more ensuring that we are able to collect better. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes.
Rationalization. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I took a cue from what my minister said during his vetting, and I emphasized that. And conversations with him so far point to the fact that that is what he will be doing. And he mentioned already some taxes that were already there, but the previous government suspended it because of elections. I'm sure these are all avenues that we can use to rake in more taxes. And specifically, if you listen to him, he spoke about the economic rent from our extractive industry. That is something that we can take advantage of in order to bridge the gap.
My last question to you.
Part of the solution lies in what we were talking about, a moment ago. And let me just, you see, we're going to be rationalizing the taxes whilst you cut certain taxes. Many of the taxes that have been reintroduced as levies, and yours truly was a VAT national coordinator, were actually taxes that the VAT replaced, right? And so if you have gone back and you are reintroducing taxes that the VAT replaced, and you are not doing better than the VAT, but rather you are being told that this is an impediment to VAT. Let me give you two quick examples. National Health Insurance Levy, Get Fund. They were introduced partly because of political difficulty, but they were 2.5% each of VAT, and they were collected as though they were VAT. And the reason you collect them as though they were VAT, quite apart from increase the VAT, is that businesses, right, like your entity, it's not a consumer. So when you buy, inputs like this equipment we are seeing here, you have the right to offset the credit before from the advertisement, revenues on which you had imposed the tax. Now, when you remove these two from the VAT base, you block that credit to business. What does it happen? What happens? The VAT is added. What used to be credit and refund is added to your cost. And we say it cascades, because for as long as that somebody advertising agent is not, also the consumer, it just keeps increasing. And then you have evasion and avoidance. So when you rationalize and you bring back, the Get Fund and the NHI as VAT, and you give business credit, you minimize evasion and avoidance. And then when you introduce another tax measure, which is the ITAX, which was suspended, should have been done about 10 years ago as phase 2, right, of ICOMs. And let me use VAT again to illustrate this particular point. The bulk of credit that is taken for VAT and refund is actually import VAT. Right now, that import VAT is sitting in ICOMs because it was collected by customs. But there is no domestic tax system, which would download that information and say that, Bernard, paid VAT of 100. So if Bernard is claiming that VAT as input tax credit and he's claiming 120, it means that he's cheating the system with 20, right? So it is not just sending people into the field. And so we need the ITAS, right. And that's a top priority and that is the rationalization plus reform, and we will definitely
do that. We will raise enough domestic resources, irrespective of the
extent,
uncertainty of donor support.
Yes, but because we need to generate domestic revenue.
Wonderful.
You know, as subsidy, that's one of the,
Well,
you know,
it's
the
an
things,
ongoing
you know,
conversation. We are here at the
Yes.
sidelines of the National Economic Dialogue.